Hey everybody, gonna bring you along on just a fabulous morning of flying I had with Jamie. It was one of his first morning nil wind flights, first one where we got out in the spectacular fog. Here he's gonna launch again. It was nil wind. I'm running my motor, I've got it revved up behind him as he's getting ready to launch. The idea was to try to get some more airflow over his wing in the general direction, help him out on the launch a little bit. Of course, when I pull the wing up, I don't want the prop spinning, at least for that initial pull. My mini plane cage is just kind of a fiberglass flexible hoop, and if you there's a chance that if you pull hard on the wing, on the lines as it comes up, you could get it back in, flex the cage back into the prop, and bad stuff would happen. And you don't want that. So we got up, first attempt on both launches, nil wind, and good stuff. You can see here we're cruising around just not very far from where we launched. Already had some light fog over the area. It was setting up to be just a fabulous morning, and I got some really good footage following Jamie like I am here, and I'm going to show some sped up versions of it. We'll set to some music at the beginning, but later on in the flight here, this was something I wanted to talk about a little bit. Here's again, the winds were so light. There's a section of river, the Brazos River, the water's down pretty low, and I decided I'm going to get down and kind of skim along the edge of the water, you know, do a little bit of bar hopping, as I like to say, sandbar hopping. And so I'm setting up, kind of scoping it out. I'm going to go down to the end and do maybe a short foot drag or just skim along the water. So we'll do a little fast forward and get that set up, show you that, and then we'll talk about what Jamie did. So as you can see, I'm cruising along in the sand, the edge of the water, keeping it nice and safe, but having lots of fun. And somewhere about here, I kind of knew the lay of the land and said, okay, it's time to climb up, get enough altitude where if I had a motor out, right away, I had plenty of more sandbar to come down and land on. It would have been a long hike out of there if I'd went down, but it'd be safe. But I'm going to climb up, and then once I get certain height, I can take a left turn, cross the river, and I've got an open field. It's kind of tough to see. I'm going to go through the fog layer, but you can see I had lots of out options on the right, and then once I get high enough here, I'm pretty sure I'm high enough, and I decided, okay, let's commit over. I got a nice open field to the left, and kind of a case Jamie saw me doing this, and you know, I've been talking to him about always having out, always make sure you've got a safe place to go if your motor's out. So Jamie just saw me do it. He decided he'd take off and do the same thing, but you know, it's one of those things, he didn't think ahead about when to start climbing. He didn't start climbing early enough. You can kind of see him there going low across the sandbars, and what he's going to do is he's going to not be climbing here where he could cut across to the open field, and he's going to kind of box himself into a corner off once he'd go around, and you know, it was all safe provided the motor ran okay. But he ended up over the trees, deciding to go over the trees instead of over the water to go back, and because he kind of ran out of real estate before he had climbed. You can see right about this point he's probably realizing what he's done, making a decision. Do I go out over the water? I think he does have flotation, or do I go back over the trees? And eventually I think he decided, yeah, I'm going to turn and go back over the trees. So that's something to, you know, always know where your out is, especially like he followed me. I went down there with a plan, and he went down there basically just copycatting what he thought I'd done, but missed some important details in the process. But as you see, it ended well. No motor outs, no issues. We had a good chat about it after the fact, and it was a good learning experience. It kind of cemented in his mind, pay attention to what you're doing, pay attention to those outs. There's a good shot on the right. You can see the field where I made sure I climbed up, so if I wanted to cut across, I could go to it. And I was actually turning out across that. So here, I'll speed up some of the footage. Jamie's going to make, well, I think maybe 2 more passes. He just really enjoyed the river run, the bar hopping on the river run, let's call it. So after the river run, this was late in our flight. A lot of the fog was clearing up. So we cruised along, and basically we set up and we got in Jamie's first wing bump. So do kind of a lead up to that here. Maybe I'll speed it up till we get a little bit closer, but really just beautiful scenery. And here's a spot. This was a little later on in the flight. I got some of this footage out of sequence, but some of the fog was clearing. We were flying along. He was snuggling up pretty close to me, and I started talking to him on the radio, on the intercom, asking if he wanted to. It looked like he was looking up, thinking about a wing bump. So the communication wasn't as good, but as it should have been, but I kind of got the impression he wanted to do it, so he flew straight. He knew it was coming. I came over and as you'll see here, put a solid little bump and then steer away, and it's kind of good. His charger stayed rock solid. The tip of my MacCurra Colorado came in a little bit, but that's the way I'd want it to be with him. And here I'll just, I think that's all of the lessons or the learnings and the interesting shots. This is early on in the morning. We were just getting to one of the initial fields. I'm going to rock back and forth to lose some altitude, play with my camera angle on the 360 camera a little bit here. Notice as I go through the fog layer for this shot, I've got it pointing back towards me. As you look around, it's not too bad, but if you fly through the fog with the camera, the moisture will accumulate on the lens, and it's tough to get good video. You're starting to see it in the camera a little bit there. You can definitely see difference between looking forward and looking backward. But I spent most of the time a lot of the time trying to follow Jamie around and get some good shots. Of course, one of the funnest things to do is, and this is kind of again, playing a camera angle, kind of almost like a side-on looking one as I'm scooting through some of the trees and a little bit of the fog. I just thought this was an interesting angle included in here, so just really enjoyable. There was a little section where we got over to one of the quarries, played around low. We got to, in order to get to this one. So there's a lesson here. We got to cross fairly low, just off the end of a little local private airport. And so I made sure and point that out to Jamie. I got my aviation radio, and anytime I fly there across that path there, I try to always make sure I'm on the radio announcing that we're there. Taking extra care to make sure there's nobody taking off and we're going to have a conflict with them. But what I got here is a long string of sped up footage just to try to give you an idea of what it's like, how blessed we are to be able to fly in this area, especially those foggy morning flights. It's just so much fun. And here's a little bit of following Jamie around as he picks and chooses some good spots to get down low. And I think he did a really good job with managing getting low where he could, but staying high. You know, anytime he needed to have more options for a motor out situation. Really well done in this part. It was later when we got down in the river that was the challenge I already talked about. And here's just one of the cooler shots with the track through the fog and being able to follow him around. Just awesome scenery. And this little bit coming up is where I decided Jamie wanted me to get down and skim through the fog, and he took some pictures. And I'll show you again what it does to the camera lens when you go forward through the fog layer. And I'm going to bring it in for a landing. It was an uneventful landing. You know, it's one of those things where first I did a flyby because I knew it was pretty low wind. I wanted to make sure I didn't have end up being a little bit of downwind, because it was going to be a fast landing. So I come in low, and I'm always trying to make it so I end up pretty close to my vehicle and minimize the amount of walk. One thing, a lesson, Jamie set up and came right in, and for the few flights that he had and still working on his landings, he's doing good. But he made the choice on this one to come in and try to duplicate kind of what I did. And he pulled it off. He came in on the road. Obviously a little bit less forgiving, the hard surface there, but with dew in the ground in the morning, sometimes that's a better choice. But got a little low, bumped the bottom of his cage, but pulled it up, you know, put the wing on the nose. Wasn't the greatest landing, flared a little late, I think, but you know, he walked away, and he'll learn and improve next time. So hope everybody enjoyed it. It was great getting out, and can't wait to the next one.